Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Slam. My name is Jim Smallman. This is Sports Tonight's weekly wrestling discussion and gossip show. And joining me today from the Sun is Mr. Rob McNichol. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, Jim. How are you?
I'm excellent. Obviously we had you on the Skype wall.
Yeah, I didn't think I looked very good on the TV, so I thought you'd come and show you in person just how what an attractive man I am.
And glamorous you are.
Thank you very much.
Now, I have to ask, because it's your first time in the studio. Yep. Every time we have a visitor in for the first time, I have to ask you three very, very important wrestling-related questions. Sure. Number one, favourite wrestler of all time?
Favourite, and not necessarily best, because I could qualify it, but favourite, Bret Hart.
Excellent choice. Read his autobiography?
Yes.
It's a wonderful book.
Read his autobiography, had the little quote with my name on the front of it.
Oh, well, I can't argue with that.
That's all right, isn't it?
Oh, that's brilliant. Secondly,
had to pay a lot for that.
Secondly, favourite current wrestler?
I think right now, today, Dolph Ziggler. I just think the year he's had and where he's come from. I don't say he's necessarily the best, but in terms of, I think the progress he's made recently. Yeah. It's been outstanding.
He'd get most improved, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
If this was a school awards.
Yeah, but when you're playing football in your under-12s and you get most improved, it means you used to be rubbish and you're now all right and you turn up every week.
He was in the Spirit Squad.
But he has.
He did used to be rubbish. Yeah. And favourite match of all time?
Again, it's a slight bias because I was there, and it's the first Shawn Undertaker match from WrestleMania 25 in Houston.
Match.
It's not flawless. There's bits that went wrong, Taker's dive over the ropes and other things, but the emotion that was in the ring that night and in the arena, I never believed going into it that Taker would lose, and halfway through or towards the end, I thought Shawn was going to beat him. I believed it. It made a cynical person like me believe it. So
I actually think as well that the slight botches in that match make it even better.
I think they make it a bit more human, don't they? Especially in an Undertaker match, that's a bit hard. But I think that you genuinely felt that they were out to put on the best thing ever, and they came pretty close. Yeah.
Now, we're going to talk, first part of the show, we're going to talk about Raw and SmackDown. Obviously, SmackDown was taped yesterday. Raw in particular, I mean, I thought it was a very strong Raw the week before. I know we spoke about it last week. I mean, what were your overall thoughts? If you had to give Raw a mark out of 10 this week, what would you give it?
This week, I can sometimes give it different marks depending on entertainment value and, what I feel it achieved. And I actually think for that, probably 8 or 9, but entertainment, maybe 7. I thought that lots of the certain storylines that they need to build going into the Rumble and need to build going into Mania, I thought they did a great job with this week. I love the fact that virtually the first hour of the show was solely the Punk and Laurinaitis and Ziggler angle, and the theory is there.
I must point out, Laurinaitis' face there that's the best no-sell I've ever seen, because Punk's still in character. Definitely, looking like the vague sense of evil that he has around him that makes him likeable to fans. And then you've got Laurinaitis, who just looks like he's being carried out.
Just looking straight down there, yeah. But I thought that a lot of the stuff that went on with them was very good. I think Laurinaitis, as I mentioned, last week, has come on a bundle recently. And I just thought, generally speaking, I thought it was a pretty strong show. I thought it was the best week of the Cena Kane stuff. A lot of people will be sad that it seems that Ryder's going to be out for quite a long time. Did they script a broken back? I think they suggested.
I think they changed that though, didn't they, to a herniated disc?
Oh, have they?
Which, I'll be honest, if you ever herniated a disc, it's horrible. I mean, ask Mick Foley about herniated discs. They're not fun. But I'm not a big fan of Ryder. I'm the first person to say I'm very pleased that he's managed to become marketable, but I just don't buy into him at all.
I'm not crazy about him. I think he serves a purpose. I think it's fantastic that someone can do what he's done, come from nowhere and make something of himself and have people take notice of him. I think that's great. But I could take him or leave him personally, but I respect what he's achieved.
Now, someone else who's going to join us on the Skype wall with his opinions is Matty Della. Hello, Matty. How are you, mate?
Hello, hope you're all well.
We are indeed. Now, you work for Watford Vibe 107.6, don't you, my friend?
Yes, indeed. Yes, I do.
And obviously, I mean, you wouldn't be on the Slam if you weren't, but you're a massive wrestling fan. I mean, I presume you've seen Raw this week, my friend?
Yes, I have watched Raw. I've got some very interesting thoughts, especially about Jericho. I've got a bit of a rant to go on about how Jericho was dealt with on Monday. So,
well, I tell you what,
interesting.
This is one of very few places where you can now go ahead and rant. We will give you 30 seconds to rant about Chris Jericho, and then we'll weigh in with our opinions afterwards. Take it away, Matty.
Well, I think that they did it wrong. They should have not let him talk this week. They should have had him go in. They should have just announced that he's in the Rumble, not had him talk this week, because I think it just kills it completely. They should have had him not talk, go in, win the Rumble, and then have a victory speech, and then him coming going, I've now won the Rumble. It's now the end of the world as you know it, and then he can go into whatever gimmick he's going to go into. But I think they did it completely wrong by doing it the week before as opposed to the week after.
Do you know what? I mean, last week when we were talking on the Slam, one of the first things I said was, I reckon they'll keep him silent until he wins the Rumble, and then they'll spit exactly like you said, Matty. I think it does build up a little bit of suspense, him saying it is the end of the world at the Rumble. But I was as surprised as you were, and I think it didn't. I don't know if you'd agree with me here, Rob, but I don't think it got the pop that they expected it to do when he eventually spoke. I think people sort of went,
I don't know, I think they're quite happy with the ambiguity, and I know I spoke to a lot of people that didn't grasp it to begin with, and then after a couple of weeks have started to get more and more into it. But I do think if you go 4 weeks of silence, I do think that's really pushing the patience of people, especially to do it the way they did with the highlight reel. So I was actually all right with it. Slight difference of opinion now. I liked it, and I liked that it had some build-up. I guess where I might differ there is that I don't think he's going to win the Rumble. We're going to come to Rumble stuff in due course, I'm sure. But so I don't think there is a victory speech to be had. But
go for it, Matty.
It's like a fantasy book a little bit. My ideal thing was going to be if he comes back out. And his gimmick would have been if he come out there and gone, I've won the Rumble, but what's the point? I've tried to tell you every week, but I can't get choked up. The world is going to end. I want him to be this nut job harbinger of the apocalypse, and that's his gimmick. It would be amazing if that's what the whole thing's up to, that he's coming back to try and save everyone, be another saviour, but save everyone and warn them he believes the world is actually going to end this year.
I actually want him to be the WWE equivalent of David Icke. I want him to start wearing turquoise tracksuits and talking about the McMahon family being lizards.
That's
what I want to happen.
CM Punk, you're a lizard person.
It would be good. I have to ask you both. I have gone from with regards to Brodus Clay, I have gone from going, what is going on here, to now genuinely looking forward to seeing him on Raw and SmackDown. I mean, Matty, have you been won over by how they've used him so far?
Oh, it's glorious. It's brilliant. It's one of the best things. He's like pure entertainment value. I am now looking forward. I want tickets to go see Raw when it comes to UK to just see Brodus Clay, because I'll tell you how I saw it. I was gonna watch Sky Plus. I was gonna watch it in the morning. I went on Facebook, and one of my friends who does Smart Wrestling Fan Podcast, give it a little plug there, said, I've just seen Brodus Clay. I cannot believe how amazing it is. Like, I've got to watch this, and I laughed like a drain. It's brilliant, and it's got better and better. And they're booking it brilliantly. If it's going to be what it looks like to be, which is going to be a Brodus Regal feud.
Oh, that's exciting.
Genius.
I was saying to Rob before the show when we were sat in the office discussing what was going on, I like Wade Barrett's commentary the other day just because I like hearing a Preston accent on the WWE. But I was really excited. I've just read Regal's autobiography, and I'm excited about anything they could do. I'm really sad that they never got to use him when he was King of the Ring, probably because of the wellness violation. But I think if they feud them two together, it will be, because Regal's exactly the right person to put over the humour of an angle. He's a massive...
His comedy timing is genius. He's got some of the best comic timing.
I was talking to him on Twitter and trying, because obviously I'm a stand-up comedian by trade, I was trying to convince him to do stand-up comedy like Mick Foley's doing, and he keeps saying, oh no, I'm not up for it. But I'd love him to do it.
I think he's a good reactor to things, isn't he? He could probably do a sort of panel show environment, because he'd have a bit of quick wit, and I thought his comedy was...
You need to pitch that to WWE Network.
That's a good idea, actually, isn't it? They could do that.
Now, before we let you go, Matty, I've been told that you are currently staying at your girlfriend's house. Is this correct?
Yes, I am doing this from not my girlfriend's mate's bedroom, because it's the best place with a signal.
And your girlfriend, wrestling fan or not?
She isn't a wrestling fan, is quite confused. I actually I went to watch the WWE in October, and we were right at the back, and she didn't pay attention. She was just taking photos the whole night. No word of a lie. She was watching one of the matches. She went, who's the really tall guy, the tall black guy? I was thinking, who's she talking about? And it was a match, a 6-man tag. It turns out she was talking about a very tanned Kevin Nash.
That is brilliant. Is she around? Is she around at the minute?
No, she's walking back from university at the moment. But some of the stuff she comes out with, she just doesn't understand or really get why I watch wrestling.
Well,
but it's really funny sometimes hearing a reaction.
All I'd say, mate, is my girlfriend is a scientist, and I've managed to convince her to like wrestling. Keep plugging away, mate. It will happen.
I will keep trying, yes.
And you know, if she doesn't ever like it, then you just don't ever consider marriage or anything like that. Just a tip.
I'll make that the ultimatum. I'll definitely make that the ultimatum.
Here's a box set of WrestleManias. You will enjoy it, or we're never getting married.
Top draw. I'm definitely going to do that.
Listen, Matty, thank you very much for joining us on the Slam, mate. Hopefully, enjoy the Rumble at the weekend. A quick prediction: who do you think's going to win?
Royal Rumble. I'm going. I can't see past either Jericho or a dark horse. I would be Sheamus. So Jericho or Sheamus, I'm going to look.
Sheamus has never been called a dark horse before.
The irony of only just hit me.
We will call him the Pale Rider. Excellent. Thank you very much, Matty. We appreciate you getting in touch today. Thank you very much. That's Matty. Join us on the Skype wall here on Sports Night TV. Rob, we have to quickly talk while we're talking about Raw. Cena's heel turn. Do you think?
Is it a heel turn?
Is it going to happen? Because I hate him. I want it to happen.
Well, there's an argument to say that if you hate him and those vocal males in the crowd already hate him, then he already is a heel. There's an argument for that he's just a heel to some people and a babyface to others. Not dissimilar to the Brett thing years ago when he was a heel in America and a babyface
I really wanted
else.
to do a double turn. I really wanted them to. They had the exact opportunity to do it in Chicago and have the double turn with him and Punk. And they did the right thing putting the belt on Punk, I think. But if they'd have done a double turn there, the crowd would have gone insane for it.
Well, kind of, but they were going to boo him anyway. And a few people have suggested that he could turn heel at WrestleMania. And I think, well, they're going to boo him at Mania anyway. A, he's against The Rock. B, it's in Miami. Yeah. So I don't think it's necessarily... I like the slow things. I like it when it takes some time. I like the Jericho stuff for that. I think it's good fun to get into... Not just a bang, 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 3 weeks and you're out. So, as I said before, I thought this week was the best they've done so far in the very steady, turn.
Building
the fact
angles.
that Zach and Eve both blamed him for what happens and he looked like he didn't... His acting face wasn't the best when he did it.
His acting face to camera. If I could do this now, I'm going to do it to camera one. This is me being John Cena showing anger. That's as good as it gets.
I think it was gradually realising your feet are in acid. I think was this sensation coming up.
That is totally what it is. We're going to talk Royal Rumble in the second part of the show. We asked you last week on Twitter to get in touch with me and predict who you think is going to win the Rumble. Also, who the surprise entrance might be. So me and Rob will have a bit of a chat about that. But that'll be after a couple of minutes of a few messages. We'll see you in a bit. It's part two of the Slam. We're in Canada. I just thought I'd do that. It's part two of the Slam here on Sports Night TV. I'm joined by Rob McNichol from The Sun. We're talking about WWE in the first section of the show. We're going to carry that on in the second section. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Royal Rumble. Now,
my favourite pay-per-view.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's everyone's favourite one, really, isn't it? They talk up Mania, but we all love the Rumble.
Yeah, because you know that you've got a little bit. For an hour and a half on Sunday, you've got an hour and a half that there's going to be some unpredictable stuff that's going to happen, some funny stuff's going to happen.
Yeah, usually.
There's going to be great little bits and bobs that are going to happen. Little feuds are going to start, little feuds are going to end. It's going to be great.
Yeah, there's been very, very few really bad Rumbles. You can go back to, a long way and find one where there was just no star power in it whatsoever, and they weren't. But even then, they were fun. I've always thought they were great.
I'm trying to think the one that was in San Antonio.
That was 97.
97, did Michaels win it? No, Michaels was facing Sid, wasn't
Austin won in 97. The one in 97, actually, if you look at the last 10 entrants in it, are all massive stars. And some of it was Kane being the fake Diesel at the time, and an early version of Rocky Maivia. But there's some hell of a stars in that last.
Rocky Maivia with very poofy hair.
Yeah, that's the one.
Now, last week, we ended the show by myself asking you guys on Twitter to get in touch with me, which is @Jim Smallman on Twitter. Get in touch with me and tell me who you thought, firstly, was going to be the surprise entrance in the Rumble, and also who we thought were going to win the Rumble. Now, we've got on our big screens here. I'm going to ask you your opinion, Rob, and think whether this is going to happen. First of all, we're going to talk about shocks.
Right, I don't know. Well, I don't know who's going to be. So this is
the third most popular in terms of shock entrance was the man there, the Road Dogg, who has rubbish tattoos.
And seems to be wearing a Scott Steiner t-shirt.
I think he is wearing a Scott Steiner t-shirt. Good spot.
It was all right. Yeah, I think it's a good chance. The thing I think goes against him is that he did a little spot on the Slammies a few weeks ago and got no reaction whatsoever. which I was very surprised about. I've always been a big fan of his. He could be one of those guys. He could take his entire 2 minutes to walk down doing his spiel on the microphone and get thrown out immediately. It could be something like that.
That's a good shout.
That wouldn't surprise me. I think he's an agent at the moment. I believe he's got a short-term contract being a backstage producer and agent with them. So, yeah, that's a very good chance.
And he's clearly living in a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
So, very good. I never thought he was a particularly good wrestler. I think he's a good speaker. I think they kind of missed the boat a bit. They could have had him doing an announcing job for them.
Yeah, and maybe even a manager. I could have seen him being a good heel manager at one point. Maybe they've missed the boat on it now, as you say. But it certainly wouldn't shock me to see him on Sunday, no.
Right, next one. D-Generation X themed. We have the man Sean Waltman, X-Pac. Now, I was talking to you during the break about how good I thought he was at Shikara's King of Trios. I thought he was excellent. And he has, he's been hosting all kinds of little parties and stuff like that to do with WWE. Do you think there's a chance?
I do think there's a chance, and I think there'd be some people like Sean and Brian that was on a second ago that might see it as almost like a little bit of a proving ground. Like last year, it was Diesel and Booker T that came back in the Royal Rumble, and both of them landed jobs in one way or another during the year. So
had we Goldust a couple of years ago as well?
Of course, yeah. There's been quite a few of them that have done it. So someone like Sean Waltman, it's been up and down, in his personal life over the years, but hopefully he's on the straight and narrow. We've seen lots of stories like that in wrestling. If it's one night and he has fun for 10 minutes, then great. If it leads to something longer, then fantastic. Brilliant. So, yeah, definitely, I don't think either of them would be the biggest shocks at all. I think they would be nice surprises, but not the biggest.
I think this would be the biggest shock, and at the same time, I would completely expect it. And that is...
Oh, Brock.
There he is, Brock Lesnar, now retired, of course, from UFC after his latest defeat. Now, obviously, the guy's nearly died twice. So surely, if he's going to earn a bit of money, he's going to come back to the relatively easier life of wrestling.
Easier than losing to Alistair Overeem, certainly. Well, in some ways, I hope it's not Brock, because I have a bet that he won't wrestle The Undertaker at WrestleMania to the tune of £50 with my WrestleCast co-host Joel Ross. But and I do think he's unlikely. I mean, it'd be great to see it. The reaction would be immense. Yeah. I just think that there's not. I don't think he'd do anything unless it was WrestleMania and one or two others, and then even at that, they've got The Rock this year. They've got a lot going on at Mania, so I'm going to say no to that one. I think the other two are more likely than Brock, but if all three of them, that's the one I'd like to see.
I'd be very excited to see him back. Now, before we speak about the top 3 predictions that we got coming through on Twitter about who's going to win, we're going to speak about some Royal Rumble memories with Lee from the Ministry of Slam. Hello, Lee. How are you, mate?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for getting in touch with myself on Twitter last week. It's always good to hear from anyone who's a wrestling fan, anyone who's involved with this great sport of ours. I'm going to say sport because I refuse to say sports entertainment.
Fair enough. Can I interject at this point and say that Lee has a show called Ministry of Slam, as you mentioned, which I do a little spot on every week on a Sunday. So good to see you, Lee. Do you notice I'm that good on that show that he's actually dressed like me today? Look.
That is beautiful.
He's worn the same jumper and the shirt there.
It is exact, isn't it?
Thank you for the homage, Lee.
That's all right. The ministryofslam.com will be selling Rob McNichol outfits from this week, I believe. So it's all a go.
Fantastic.
It's exactly what you need for your Royal Rumble themed party, isn't it? Now, Lee, Royal Rumble memories. I mean, me and Rob have been saying it's one of our favourite pay-per-views. I mean, would you go along with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I mean, to try and not tack on the cliche of the road to WrestleMania starts here. It does from a fan's perspective, but it also does from, us internet guys and the people who really look into wrestling, because all the matches and feuds and everything seem to come together at this time of year. And, following the Rumble, we get a kind of an idea of what we're going to expect from a WrestleMania and what we can expect to see, which is, we all talk about that all throughout the year is, what's next year's WrestleMania going to be like? And we do actually get to start seeing it coming together at this time of year. So it's great.
I'll ask you both this question. I mean, favourite Royal Rumble, not necessarily just the Rumble match, but favourite Royal Rumble card. Mine's dead easy. Mine's Royal Rumble 2000.
Yeah, 2000
because it had Foley, Triple H on, and a very good Rumble match, and a very good Hardys Dudleys match, and Taz's debut.
Right, and Terry Runnels in that swimsuit.
And Terry Runnels in a swimsuit. So it's nice to see that's what obviously you remembered.
Yeah.
So I mean, you guys.
Listen, I was 16. That's all I was interested in at the time.
I'll go with you first, Lee. Favourite Rumble.
Favourite Rumble has to be boring. It's going to have to be 1992. Ric Flair winning the Rumble. Not just Flair's performance, it's also Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary, which really added to the whole thing.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the managers anyway, but has him as a manager, and he was on commentary. Obviously, he was the advisor of Flair. Just the whole package was fantastic, and a great undercard as well.
No, I totally. I mean, it's just a tremendous performance from Flair. And you think, I mean, he wasn't young. I mean, I know he's not young now, but he certainly wasn't young then in 1992.
There's a fantastic bit in that where Bobby Heenan constantly, I beg your pardon, it's the year after, in 93, Bobby Heenan on commentary throughout talks about Bob Backlund, and he keeps going, 43 years old. Flair was 42 at the time. He was a year younger. They're talking about Backlund being this old dude, but it was that was pretty funny. I kind of will definitely side with Lee as far as the actual match goes. 92 is the best one as far as I'm concerned. Wonderful storytelling throughout with Flair, and it's one of those ones that it could have gone lots of ways. I think that the poorest Rumbles are the ones where there's not that many candidates to win. 95, for example, was only ever really going to be Shawn Michaels, or Luger was in that match as well. But you know, that one, it could have been Flair, and it could have been Hogan, and it could have been Sid, and there was a lot that it could have gone that way. And I agree with you, as an overall show, 2000 was. I think 2000 is the WWE's best year ever.
Yeah.
I know that 88 and 89 were the biggest ratings, but technically speaking, and from from my point of view, 2000 was the best year, and it started on a great footing. There's not a bad match on that show. It's a decent Rumble, not a great Rumble match, but the entire show, fantastic.
Now, Lee, obviously we've been talking predictions in this part of the show. I mean, who would you go with predictions-wise for this weekend?
Do you know, I'm going to throw a little curveball into this. I think early in the night we're going to see CM Punk drop his WWE Championship to Dolph Ziggler, but then enter himself into the Royal Rumble, win the Royal Rumble, and he'll be challenging Ziggler in the run-up to WrestleMania. How about that?
That's a good shout. Because they have been talking up the whole anyone can enter thing, haven't they? So I think that's a very, very good shout indeed. Not something that came through on Twitter that much. I mean, do you think if they did that, I mean, that's purely to get the big pop for Punk winning at WrestleMania, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's. I mean, it will certainly enforce the whole CM Punk, John Laurinaitis thing, because presumably he'll be getting involved as the special guest referee in the championship match, and then they can carry it on all the way up till Mania. I know they're looking at it as a sort of Austin versus Vince kind of child, as it were, for that storyline. So they'll get as much out of that as they can. So hopefully in the run up to WrestleMania it'll be great. Lots of little skits and other people involved. It'll be great.
See, that surprised me, because I've been thinking they've been building to Punk against Jericho, and that has been my prediction. But I think that's a really good shout.
I think the Punk Jericho thing. The thing is with that is that it's only come from internet buzz. There's been obviously no indication of it on TV. I guess Jericho walked out on Punk last week, but they've not really pushed it that way on TV. I see there's a fair chance that they'll do Punk Laurinaitis at the Elimination Chamber in a similar way. I think they did Miz and Lawler at Elimination Chamber last year, and I think it might be a good little filler one while the other chamber matches are going on. If Lee's right, and if Punk wins the Rumble, I think what that starts to whet the appetite for is that if he doesn't go down the Jericho route, that could mean that Punk might challenge Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's an interesting
thing.
Which
will be a dream match if you're an indie nerd like me. That is a dream match. Lee, before we let you go, mate, obviously you run Ministry of Slam. Let us know what it's about. Give it a quick plug.
Okay, I've been doing the Ministry of Slam since 2009. We air every week, 8 p.m. UK time, ministryofslam.com. Go to the site. You can listen live on a Sunday evening, download all of our podcasts. Sports entertainment is what wrestling is called, and we're all about entertainment. We don't take it too seriously. We have a bit of a laugh with it, as Rob will know. And of course, it's got Rob on it as well. What more do you want?
Well, yeah,
I'm glad he said that, so I didn't have to.
Two men who dress the same and love wrestling. You can't ask for any more than that. Lee, enjoy the Royal Rumble. I shall be tuning into Ministry of Slam as well. Have a good listen to it, and have yourself a fantastic week, my friend. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. That's Lee Tyers from Ministry of Slam. Now, the other issue we need to get to, I mentioned this before. I asked on Twitter, @JimSmallman, that's my Twitter handle. I asked last week, who do you guys, the viewers of the Slam, think is going to win the Royal Rumble? Now, we've got the top three. Probably not announced this to you yet, Rob, but we'll see. Let's rate it. Let's give them odds. Let's give them odds. Like
we'll give them odds. Okay, I like that. Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, third on the list for people getting in touch with me, there you see the man, Wade Barrett. Now, I personally can't see him winning it. I don't think he's been pushed enough. But I do think he's at least got a bit of profile. It would be a surprise.
It would. It wouldn't be the biggest surprise ever, but it would be something I wouldn't give you massive odds because it's a possibility. I'm a big horse racing fan. If I was backing Wade Barrett, I'd be backing him each way. I think there's a fair chance he's there near the end.
Yeah.
In the last 4 or so, I could definitely see him being around. He's someone that's fans, because of his feud with Cena and because of his high profile over the last few years, would probably see as a credible threat to win. So I think he'll last a long time, but I don't think he'll win it.
Okay, we'll quickly have to get through the next two. Incidentally, lovely viewers of the Slam, if you are thinking of going to a bookies and betting on the odds on the Royal Rumble, probably stop watching wrestling now. You need to grow up. Now, number 2 on the list. There he is, the Apex Predator, the stupidest nickname of all time, the incredibly oiled David Beckham lookalike that is Randy Orton. He does look like David Beckham,
with
a beard and hair. He looks like David Beckham.
Look at that a little bit closer.
Very briefly, odds. What do you reckon?
Not the worst nickname ever, because the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy is the worst nickname ever.
Yeah,
but he's my pick. As soon as they did the whole injury thing, because from everything I heard, he's injured, but he's working through injury. There's no reason he couldn't win the Rumble and not wrestle again until Mania.
Cena did that, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's my pick. I think he's the most likely, so I'm going to say, let's say 94.
Obviously, SmackDown hasn't aired yet, but return from the on SmackDown taping this week, came out, RKO'd everybody in sight. And then, apologies if you've not seen it yet, but, you know, the internet exists.
Yeah, I didn't know that, so that actually makes me think a little bit less, because I thought it was going to be a bit of a surprise entry. So he's just drifted on Betfair at 3-1.
You're a wrestling journalist, you don't read spoilers?
I never read spoilers. Ever.
Wow.
Because I genuinely think it ruins everything. Ruins the product.
I can't live without it.
Yeah.
And number one, most predictions, and this was by far and away the man there with the light-up jacket, and that is a lovely face, Mr. Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I'm just hearing through here that a lot of money's just gone on him. He's just gone to 8-11. He's just flown in since I tipped up Orton, and everyone's put money on Jericho. Great chance. Obviously, he's the talking horse, as it were. He's the one that everyone's talked about in the last few weeks since his return. I had a great theory. I can't remember who it was, so I apologise that I can't name check them, but I had a great theory that basically number 29 and number 28 could both be in the ring and eliminate each other, and out comes Jericho at 30, walks into the ring and wins the Royal Rumble. Never has to touch anyone. I think it would, in some respects, it would be horrible, but it would be fun, wouldn't it?
I'm a big Jericho mark, so if the guy wins, I'm happy. Although I do think there's a lot of intangibles going into it.
I think Jericho wins the Elimination Chamber, by the way. I don't think he wins the Rumble. I think Orton wins the Rumble, picks his SmackDown opponent. Jericho wins the Chamber and then faces Punk.
Excellent. See, look at that. Rob McNichol, he knows what he's
Thought
talking
it through.
about. That, my friends, is the end of part 2, if you're watching in Canada. We'll return with part 3 after these messages. We'll see you in a bit. Part 3, my friends, of the Slam here on Sports Tonight. I'm Jim Smallman. Joining me today is Rob McNichol from The Sun. Now, what we like to do is give you guys the chance, if you work for a promotion or have got a favourite independent promotion in Britain, we like you to give them a bit of a plug here on The Slam. Now, the promotion of the week we're going to be talking about now is Grand Pro Wrestling. They're based in Wigan, and we've got a little bit of VT for you to have a look at now. The best bit about that is the fact that Michael Jackson seems to be the special guest referee, which is wonderful. That is Grand Pro Wrestling. Their website is grandprowrestling.co.uk. Their next show is on February the 3rd at the Rose Club, which is on Atherton Road, Hindley in Wigan. Tickets are £8 per person. Group discounts are available. Once again, the website, grandprowrestling.co.uk. If you want to get in touch and plug your independent federation, then please do get in touch. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at Jim Smallman, or alternatively at Sports Tonight TV if you want to get in touch with the station as a whole. Now,
please tell me they've booked Brodus Clay in their main event of their next show. Hey, the Funkasaurus got nothing on those boys.
Brodus Clay definitely needs to be in that. Joining us on the Skype wall are two of my favourite people. One person you'll remember from last week, which is Sam from The Noise Next Door. Also joined by Tom from The Noise Next Door. Hello, both.
Hello, Jim. How's it going?
Oh, it's good. How are you guys?
Doing really good. Very well.
Now, we have to talk about the Royal Rumble because I think on Sunday when I'm watching Royal Rumble up in Leicester with my friend John, we're going to be Skyping you guys so we can see your reactions because you guys are down in Brighton. Now, I'm going to ask you both individually. Sam first, who's going to win the Royal Rumble?
Well, you asked me this last week, and I think I've changed my mind.
That's good to know.
After you gave a great shout of Jericho, I think it's genius, and I think it's it's Jericho, maybe Orton. Jericho or Orton, one of the two.
Nice. Tom?
You backed out there. You should have picked one. Orton is going to win the Rumble, and it's a sad state of affairs that is the case.
Tom, what's your problem with Randy Orton?
He's got about 6 moves, which he can do really well, and that's it. He's kind of like Triple H, but not as exciting.
Wow, that's the biggest slam anyone's ever given Randy Orton. You like Triple H, but not as exciting. I've got to ask your opinion on this, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think at some point, I mean, he's a fit and active man. I think he's only about 30 years old. Do you think he could at some point just move a bit quicker?
See, I don't always see all that with Orton. I genuinely voted for him as Wrestler of the Year 2011. I think he had an outstanding year. Honestly, I thought he had the best match at WrestleMania with CM Punk. I think all of his pay-per-view matches have been real. I think his storytelling is terrific. I know what you mean, the 6 moves thing and the chin lock, and I don't think he's a great babyface. I think he's a much better heel. Yeah. But I love Randy Orton. I think he's great. I wouldn't have him win the Rumble if I was booking, I'll be honest, because I think we've seen it before. Yeah. It'd be nice to have some new stuff, but I think he's great.
I've got to ask you too. I mean, I don't know if you do any drinking. I don't drink, but I don't know if you do any drinking games based around watching the Royal Rumble. Like every time there's elimination, take a shot. But I think, you know, if Randy Orton is in it, every time he puts someone in a chin lock, you should just down a pint. You'd be wasted.
Right, I don't drink, but I can watch you drink.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it for just Orton's moveset, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean? Every time there's one of his 6 moves, I mean, you'd be hammered every match you play.
I like the fact that there's a real...
Like, every time he does a new move, I could drink. So
you'd never drink.
I never drink. Great.
I love that there's a split down the middle of people on that side of the room that don't drink that have picked Jericho, and people on this side that do that have picked Randy Orton. That's nice.
Yeah, which goes to prove that drinking, bad idea. Now, Sam, have you come dressed as X-Pac today?
Say again, sorry?
Have you decided to do this interview dressed as X-Pac?
Oh no, I'm ironically supporting Zack Ryder. Whoa, what an... Oh, I hate him.
But no worries,
he's broken his back.
His back is broken.
I
never walk again.
Yeah. Whenever they wheel someone into an ambulance on Raw, I always expect the Undertaker to turn around and go, "Where to, Stephanie?" Which would have made my year if that had happened. I know, because we didn't get a chance to talk about this when you were here last week, Sam, but I know you don't like Zack Ryder, as I don't like Zack Ryder. Tom, your opinions on Mr. Ryder?
About Zack Ryder? Just an irritating little whelp.
That's the first time, apart from... I'm sure that whelp is the sort of word that William Regal will use all the time as well. It's a good word.
Whelp...
He's really bad at it. The only person worse in the whole of wrestling at the moment is Drew McIntyre. Apart from that, it's just awful. He just, I hate his face.
Well, we were saying before, there's always a good competition going. Who's more orange any week, him or Eve? And Eve's quite orange, but he is very orange.
They're like a bush. No, hang on, a bushel. That's apples, isn't it? What's like a collection of oranges?
A bag.
A bag.
That's a technical term.
Now, I saw the other day, because you guys tweeted this, that you'd been spending quite some time discussing X-Pac. Now,
Yeah.
how long did you take, because you tweeted that you guys were discussing the career of X-Pac. How long did you spend doing this, and what did you discuss?
Oh,
About
a long time.
About an hour.
The whole conversation went off till about 8:30 in the morning in a hotel in Bristol.
It started off with discussing the X Factor as a finisher being my favourite finisher ever, because it's just mashing someone's face into the floor.
It is a good finisher.
And it just went on from there. He was excellent, and he went back and forth. And he did that bit in TNA. He was always.
We discussed the tag team partnership with Kane, obviously, and also the light heavyweight belt. That he was the last person to hold it, and then it just disappeared.
He got injured as the champ, and then it never existed when he came back.
But of course, you guys are familiar, and I'm sure you'll be able to back me up on this, Rob. That there is the term X-Pac heat, which is the heat that X-Pac generated, which was heat of
wrong kind.
Just completely the wrong kind. Explain, for people who may not be familiar with this term, explain it.
I think it stems from there being a time where they were pushing him as a heel. So obviously, so they want people to boo him, but the idea was that people were booing him because they just hated seeing him on their television, rather than, oh, I hate this character and I want to see him beat up. The heel, the art of the heel is obviously going back to Ric Flair and various others beyond, is to get people to buy a ticket to see them beaten up. People would look at him and go, I'm turning my TV off, I don't want to go to the arena. That's why it's X-Pac heat. Possibly a little bit harsh in some ways, but that's where it comes from.
Now, guys, before we let you go, how many people will be in your place in Brighton at the weekend watching the Rumble?
Ooh.
About
6 or 7?
I thought it was more like 10 now.
Is it 10?
Yeah, I've been inviting people.
Just inviting people on the street. Because obviously, there's 5.
Some of our Twitter fans kind of want to come and join. I think they might be taking it a step too far.
No,
I think
do
if
it.
we do that in the future, we'll do it in a pub, not in our own house.
No, do it if they're girls. Do it.
They have to win a qualifying match first, do they not, to get into their Rumble?
Yeah. Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Just met people fight in a cage. And obviously, there's 5 of you in the Noise Next Door. Obviously, the other 3, how big wrestling fans are they? Because whenever we've hung out before, us 3 have ended up talking about wrestling. But the other 3 guys, how much into it are they?
Well, there's Tom, who's actually sat just over there, who is getting into the wrestling. We're bringing him into the fold. So, this time next week he'll be in.
We're not allowing him on this now because he likes Zack Ryder and he keeps shouting woo 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 from over the side.
No.
Stop it!
Excellent stuff. Now listen, lads, I will speak to you over the weekend while we watch the Royal Rumble. If people want to catch up with you on Twitter, what is your Twitter handle, please?
The Noise Next Door as a whole is Noise Next Door, and ours individually are Red Next Door
and Yellow Next Door.
Excellent stuff. Listen, it's lovely to speak to you as always, guys. I'm sure this will become a regular feature on the Slam. Always excellent to speak to you both. Enjoy the Royal Rumble, and let's hope that Zack Ryder's out for a long time. Thank you both.
So harsh.
Tom and Sam from the Noise Next Door. Thank you both, chaps. You are watching the Slam here on Sports Night. I'm Jim Smallman, joined by Rob McNichol. We're going to have an extra guest in the studio in the final part of the show, and that is superfan Chris Kelly is going to come in. We're going to talk about TNA and particularly the Impact tapings which are taking place in Britain this week. And also, before I pose the question of the week to you guys, I've got a new tattoo to show you. So we'll probably show you that in part 4. We'll see after these messages. I welcome you back to the Slam with a European uppercut. My name is Jim Smallman. Hello. Didn't mention this earlier on, but I did get a new tattoo this week. Now, I've already got a lot of tattoos. You've probably gathered this. And it's difficult to show you on my body, the new tattoo, but we have got it on the screen there. I have got a tattoo of Mick Foley, Mick Foley's face. On my arm, very proud of it. Also his signature and Mr. Socko's signature as well, very important. Even better, I get to hang out with him soon because he's doing his comedy tour of the UK and I'm supporting him 3 times. So very excited, I get to show it him in person. That makes me a super fan. Joining me and Rob McNichol from The Sun in the studio now is Chris Kelly, who is a self-proclaimed super fan. Why is this? What makes you a super fan, Chris?
I don't know. I think I'm just crazy. I mean, who else would follow around a bunch of men wrestling? I've gone to Scotland, Sheffield. I went to, like I said a minute ago, Scotland, just to meet Mickey James. Like, there's no event going on, it's just to meet Mickey James.
That's not Superfan, mate, that's a stalker. That is genuinely how it works. Now, we're going to talk about TNA in just a second. However, TNA is, of course, taping Impact over here in the UK this week, so we've got a little bit of a preview for you right now.
Wherever Bully Ray goes, tables aren't far behind. This week, Bully teams with world champ Bobby Roode to face Jeff Hardy and James Storm in a huge tag team tables match main event on Impact Wrestling, Thursday at 9 on Spike.
Life isn't meant to be easy. The odds often seem insurmountable, but a road with no obstacles leads you nowhere. Who will defy the odds to discover whatever destiny awaits? TNA Wrestling and Direct Auto Insurance present Against All Odds, live Sunday, February 12th, only on pay-per-view.
The stars of Impact Wrestling return, the Maximum Impact Tour. See all your favorite TNA superstars, including the icon Sting, as TNA invades Nottingham's Capital FM Arena, Manchester's Evening News Arena, and London's Wembley Arena. Tickets are on sale now. Visit ImpactWrestling.com for all the latest tour and ticket information.
I cannot do this voice. I wish I could. I can't speak as deeply as that, the TNA promo man. Now, Rob, we'll come to you in a second because I know you've met someone rather important to do with TNA today. Now, Chris, you are a TNA fan, aren't you?
Yes.
I mean, do you lean more towards TNA than WWE?
I would say yes, because like when you speak to a wrestling fan, if you go TNA, they go, "Oh yeah, that's a company that's based in Florida that does nothing." But more recently now, TNA has been better than WWE Raw, and I know people get bashed because it's run by Hogan and Russo, but I don't really. I just support it because it's more of kind of a me over Sky.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You're also right there, are you, Chris?
Yeah. You got to meet Velvet Sky, which is I'm quite jealous of that.
Yeah.
Where was this?
Bound for Glory.
Oh, excellent.
I
So
went
you went all over.
Yeah, I went to Philadelphia, and I did the pay-per-view, and I did the tapings after where James Storm won the belt.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool experience because I know people have gone to America to go watch WWE pay-per-views, but when you book through WWE, they put you in a hotel separate to the talent.
Yeah.
With TNA, you're in the same hotel. And in my hotel, on my floor, I had Crimson and Jeff Hardy. And that's a bit weird to walk out.
I think I know where the party room was on that hotel floor.
It was Chris's, surely.
Yeah, it was. It was obviously Chris's. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I've been to British TNA shows, and I've always been impressed by how well run they've been, and also how fan friendly. I've been to a couple of sign-ins and stuff.
Yeah.
When Nigel McGuinness was there, Desmond Wolfe. I met him, and we met Hernandez, and it was genuinely nice. It was a nice experience. I mean, I presume you're going to the tapings.
Yes. I actually booked that before I knew it was tapings. It was when I went to go make Kurt Angle in London. I was like, you know what, I might as well buy tickets here.
Yeah.
Great, it's tapings, even better. And one thing that I despise about TNA, and I'll admit this, I hate the fans in Orlando. Mainly because the first 5 rows are plants. They're paid to be there. So they have no idea how to react to wrestling. I mean, you can't even see the cameramen going, cheer, boo, whatever.
Yeah.
And that annoys hell out of me. So when they're on the road, you get a better kind of feel to it. But like WWE are never in the same place twice in a row unless they have to tape 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Impact's every time in Orlando, they have the same fans there, and the fans annoy me. So when they come to London, the wrestlers might be in for a shock because the English fans often boo the heels just because we can.
Yeah.
No, so cheer the heels.
Because we just like being annoying.
Yeah.
That's how it works. If you could meet any wrestler in your status as a super fan, you could meet any wrestler, and who would you choose to meet? It could be anyone. Anyone who would you meet?
Probably Shawn Michaels. I spoke to him for like a minute or so because I got to interview him on my show, but I didn't actually get to speak to him because I'm just the booker for it.
Yeah.
But definitely Shawn Michaels, because if you look at his career, him being DX, him breaking, like his back being broken, him coming back, commissioner, him fighting Taker twice at Mania, probably Shawn Michaels.
Now, I know who you met today. Who did you meet today, Rob?
Big fella, quite tall, big moustache, called Terry. Yeah, I met Hulk Hogan this morning for the first time in my life. It was. I'm not a massive Hulk Hogan. I'm not a Hulkamaniac, but it was quite an experience. He's an icon, isn't he? And it was very, very cool.
2 questions. Firstly, how were the pythons?
They were massive, brother. Absolutely massive.
Secondly, did you take a Dulux colour chart to compare what colour chestnut he is at the moment?
Yeah, he was a very, very dark Eve. there's a certain orange to him, but yeah, bless him. And there's something about his moustache that made me want to just stroke it. I don't know what that was. I've never had that urge before, but just, yeah. But no, myself and my colleague Joel Ross did our WrestleCast podcast series with Hogan this morning, which is... it was very exciting. I think it was quite a good interview. That'll be live very, very soon.
So where can people get hold of that?
Well, if you go to thesun.co.uk/wrestling, which is where all of our Sun stuff is, it'll be promoted on that. We'll put some of the best bits on. And WrestleCast on iTunes. It's usually quite high up on the sports charts on iTunes, so you can find it on.
So it should be. Yeah. Because it is a proper sport.
Thank you,
now, obviously, you're looking forward to Impact. I know, Fefi, I'm working, so I can't go to the Impact tapings. Are you just going to the London ones, or are you going to?
No, because I didn't have the funds to do that. But now I've got a job. Next year, I'm going to be following them around. Like Belgium, I'm going to go there. If I go to France, I'm going to go there. I'm just going to follow them around. Just like.
Do you sort of queue up and think, I will queue up for hours to meet a wrestler? Would you do that?
Well, with Kurt, I waited 2 or 3 hours to meet Kurt.
Yeah.
And it's just because, like, when you meet him in person, you're like, wow, you're actually huge. Like, Kurt Angle was like, hey, I was like, damn. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just a feeling that comes over me. Like, when I meet someone who's famous, it's like, you see me, oh, I see you each week on TV. It's crazy. But it's bizarre, because like, when I met Sokka Val and Christy Henry from TNA, they knew who I was before I said a word. I was like, huh?
Well, that, to be fair, mate, that is, restraining orders do get around. What is it about wrestling? Because sometimes I'll sit there and I'll try and think about why I'm a wrestling fan. Because essentially, there's a great phrase in Mick Foley's first book saying it is men in their underwear pretending to fight. I mean, what is it about wrestling? What is it that has made it sort of be such a big part of your life?
I think it's just the storytelling. I mean, because why do people like movies? Tells a story. Wrestling is one giant movie. And yes, sometimes there are some plot holes, things go wrong. But I tune in just week in, week out, because you see these superhuman men on TV who beat the hell out of each other, and then next week come back and they're normal. It's just, it's kind of like superheroes. It's just like they're superheroes, and then when I meet them in person, it's just crazy. And like the atmosphere. Go to any wrestling event, WWE or TNA, the crowd's crazy, and it's, I don't know, it's just, you don't get that with any other sport.
I mean, my favourite TNA memory is I went to watch a house show in Coventry. And I went with a load of other stand-up comedians, and we started chants just to try and make the wrestlers laugh. And it was back when LAX were trying to be a very, very serious team. And I'm a big Homicide fan, and we've got Homicide.
Of the wrestler.
Yeah. Not the violent acts. And Homicide and Hernandez were trying to be really, really serious, and we cracked them up to the point where they came over to us and went, "Thanks, you cracked us up." And that was just
that's
like,
a job with Homicide. Sean's a very, very nice guy, very laid back Hernandez, but Homicide's quite serious about his act. So yeah, that's excellent.
He is, and also I'm bigger than him, which I was quite proud of. Now, to finish off the show today, there's a couple of things we like to speak about. This was a feature we didn't get a chance to do for too long last week. It's a feature called Jobber of the Week. Now, what we like to do is identify people who have spent most of their career lying on their backs, looking upwards at the ring lights, and draw a bit of attention to them, so you can perhaps go ahead and look them up on the internet, maybe find some videos of them on YouTube. Now, last week we talked about the quintessential jobber, which was, of course, the Brooklyn Brawler, and today our jobber of the week is Damien Demento, which, if I remember correctly, has the greatest ever hometown. When you're announced as a wrestler, he had the best one. He was announced from the outer reaches of your mind, which is brilliant for a man who essentially...
It's not Planet Funk, though, is it?
No, it's not. But essentially, he looks like the man from Aqua. So I've got some facts about here. His birthday is unknown. His trademark finisher is a blow to the skull. He's known for holding conversations with the voices in his head. And Rob, I'm going to test your knowledge here.
Go on. I'm impressed you can read that, by the way. I can't see that.
Very good eyesight. Oh, yeah. And Rob, what is Damien Demento most known for? Go.
What is he most known for? Well, you mentioned the YouTube videos earlier on. I assume you don't mean that. the thing I'm most known for, that he was in the main event of the first ever Raw. Is that what you're getting at?
Correct. You win a point. Points don't count for anything, but you do win one.
Do I have to tell you who it's against?
Yes, you do.
The Undertaker.
Correct. The first ever Raw from when they used to record them at the Manhattan Centre.
The Manhattan Centre now.
Yeah, he has turned into a crazy man, hasn't he? Because he's a bit Warrior-esque in terms of he does like a rant.
I think that's his role model, certainly, yeah. Seems to be.
If your role model's the Ultimate Warrior, I mean, it's my goal here on the Slam to get the Ultimate Warrior, or Warrior, as I believe his legal name is now, is my goal. So if you're watching this, Warrior, you can come on here. You don't have to come into the studio. You can Skype in. I would love, you were my hero when I was a child, and we're all aware you're a little bit controversial now. If you want to come on here, at Jim Smallman on Twitter, or at Sports Tonight TV, either of those, get in touch with me or Martin, the producer. We want to hear from you. Please, Warrior. I know you're watching, Warrior, because you watch everything in case someone mentions you, right? Please get in touch.
I think that Warrior and Kevin Nash seem to be having this spat at the moment on Twitter and are calling each other out. I say, where better venue? You announce our ref. Let's do it here, shall we? Bring them in.
I'd love to see that. One final thing I have to discuss is in terms of last week's question was, of course, who's going to win the Royal Rumble. Thank you very much for getting in touch with me on Twitter. Once again, it's at Jim Smallman. This week's question is, The Undertaker probably be back for WrestleMania. Who do you think The Undertaker will be facing at WrestleMania? Who do you think The Undertaker will be facing at WrestleMania? And as a bonus question, do you think the streak will ever be broken? Do you think the streak will ever be broken? Who's The Undertaker going to face at WrestleMania? Get in touch with me on Twitter, at Jim Smallman. We'll run down the results on the Slam next week. All that is left for me to do now is thank my guests, Rob McNichol from The Sun. Thank you very much, my friend. Our super fan, Chris Kelly, thank you very much for coming in. Enjoy TNA this week. You're going to the tapings as well, aren't you, mate?
I'm going to all 3 shows, actually. Yeah, I can't claim to be a super fan because I'm not actually paying for them, but I'm going to all 3 of the tour shows. Looking forward to it.
Excellent stuff. And if you want to quickly plug your podcast again, my friend.
Yeah, the podcast is WrestleCast on the sun.co.uk/wrestling, and I do have my own one, which is called The One-Sided Ring, which you can find on iTunes as well.
Excellent stuff. Chris, have you got anything to plug?
Yes, I've got Unplugged on the SNS Radio Network, and also Running the Ropes on the Unchained Wrestling Network.
Excellent. Thank you both very much for being such stupendous guests. Thank you for tuning in to the Slam. We will be back next week. Don't forget, get your tweets into us. Get involved. If you want to come on the Skype wall, get involved as well. And we will see you on the Slam next week. Thank you very much.